A Course in Miracles. Lesson 147. My mind holds only what I think with God. Reviewing Lesson 133. I will not value what is valueless. Reviewing Lesson 134. Let me perceive forgiveness as it is. What if forgiveness is seeing that nothing real was ever attacked? Some people replay arguments in the shower. Not out loud, but internally, rebuilding the scene, rewriting the comeback, re-feeling the disrespect, reopening the wound. The body stands under warm water in the present moment, while the mind resurrects a courtroom from 3 years ago. And in that moment, the past is not past. It is alive. The heart beats faster. The jaw tightens. The stomach reacts. A memory becomes an identity. That is the world's version of value. I will not value what is valueless. That line from Lesson 133 sounds almost too simple at first, until it becomes personal. Because most people do not merely remember pain, they protect it. They organize themselves around it. They introduce themselves through it. The betrayal, the abandonment, the humiliation, the divorce, the diagnosis, the rejection, the thing that should not have happened. And slowly, without realizing it, the wound becomes furniture in the mind. Not visited occasionally, lived in. That is why people keep screenshots they never look at, old messages they never delete, stories they secretly rehearse, conversations they mentally continue long after the other person has forgotten them. The ego treasures evidence, because evidence makes the separate self feel real. Look closely at a grievance and something strange appears. It requires constant maintenance. It must be remembered, repeated, narrated, protected, reinterpreted, defended. Like spinning plates that crash the moment attention stops. That is why some people become uneasy the instant peace begins arriving. Silence threatens the story. And without the story, the identity starts trembling. Who would someone be without the thing they blame? That is the terror underneath unforgiveness. Not merely losing pain, but losing the self constructed around pain. My mind holds only what I think with God. Lesson 147 does not gently touch the ego. It walks directly into the center of its entire economy and questions the foundation. Because if the mind truly holds only what it thinks with God, then what exactly are fear, guilt, attack, and hatred? Where did they come from? There cannot be a rival creator. There cannot be a second source. Infinity has no border where another reality can begin. So the separated self survives through misinterpretation. Like waking up in a dark house and mistaking a coat hanging on a chair for an intruder. The fear feels real. The adrenaline feels real. The body reacts as if danger is standing there. But the coat never became an attacker. The mind assigned reality to a misunderstanding. That is the entire structure of the ego. Misinterpretation defended as identity. And nowhere is this more obvious than in the idea of forgiveness. The world says forgiveness means, you actually hurt me, but I'm trying to move on. But that version never fully frees anyone, because the injury remains enshrined as reality. The guilty one stays guilty. The wounded one stays wounded. The prison simply becomes more polite. True forgiveness is far more disruptive than that. Because forgiveness, as the Course describes it, quietly asks, what if nothing real was ever attacked? Not the body, not the personality, not the social identity, but the truth of what someone is. The world hears that and immediately thinks it means denial. But think about a nighttime dream. Inside the dream, everything feels real. The panic, the loss, the running, the screaming, the grief. A dream character may even say, "This changed me forever." But upon awakening, something shocking becomes obvious. Nothing real was harmed. The dream self appeared attacked. The dreamer remained untouched. Forgiveness is the moment the mind begins distinguishing between the two. That is why unforgiveness is exhausting. It requires continuous investment in illusion. It demands witnesses, evidence, memory, rehearsal, narrative.
It is like dragging a corpse everywhere and insisting it is still alive. And the ego calls this loyalty. But peace cannot enter a mind that worships its injuries. That is why some people do not actually want resolution as much as they want validation. Validation says, "You were right to suffer." Forgiveness says, "What if suffering never defined reality in the first place?" Those are not the same thing. One reinforces identity, the other dissolves it. And that dissolution terrifies the ego, because the ego survives by making wounds sacred. Look at how quickly people say, "You don't understand what they did to me." Notice the hidden assumption. If the pain remains unique enough, important enough, unforgivable enough, then the separate self remains justified. The ego secretly believes survival depends on preserving psychological scars. But Lesson 134 says, "Let me perceive forgiveness as it is, not as the world invented it, not as morality frames it, not as superiority performs it, as it is." And forgiveness as it is does not make illusion real first. It questions the reality of the illusion itself. That is the shift. Not, "You are guilty and I am merciful," but, "What if innocence is still true underneath the entire dream of attack?" That changes everything. Because the moment innocence becomes possible for another, it becomes possible for the mind perceiving them too. That is why condemnation always rebounds onto the condemner. The mind declaring guilt must first believe guilt is real. And once guilt becomes real anywhere, fear becomes inevitable everywhere. So forgiveness is not weakness. It is the refusal to continue hallucinating separation. It is the end of emotional archaeology. The end of digging through memory searching for proof that love failed. Because reality does not require defense. Truth does not need protection. And what God creates cannot be successfully attacked by dreams. That is the quiet devastation of these lessons. They do not merely ask the mind to become kinder. They ask the mind to question whether attack ever truly reached reality at all. And if nothing real was ever attacked, then what exactly has the mind been defending this entire time?